Thank you everybody for joining. So, we're gonna, so before I introduce myself and who we have here on the panel for this roundtable, I just want to stress that this is in fact a roundtable. It's not intended to be a webinar in the sense that this isn't, we don't want to make this sort of an academic here. We're going to tell you about a whole bunch of things and then, stop and hope you guys enjoyed it, got some good stuff at it. We want to encourage your questions and your interaction here. So we're going to, as you'll see, as I only have a few slides, and we want to encourage conversation and questions and just open discussion, which is the point of this. And it's okay if you're not willing to, in a little bit, I will go through the panelists, the audience here, and allow you to talk. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can always just chat and put a question, type it in, and then we can discuss it here. So that's the format. So it's very, very just casual, intended for conversation. So just now to start with the panel from Over It. So this is, put on by Over It. Over It is a full service marketing agency. We're out of Albany, New York, and upstate New York. For those who don't know where we are, we have a pretty strong footprint in the home service, industry. In particular, we do a lot in pest control, as many of you. Say it again, Alex.
And pest control, HVAC, yep. Plumbing, yep.
So, if you're coming to this right now and you're not in one of those and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not in pest control or I'm not in HVAC, don't worry about it. Everything here we're going to talk about will apply. This is very general concept, but we will have specifics about that. But again, the concept of how to use your data in real time and analytics should be a part of any business conversation. So don't feel like you're in the wrong place if that's what's going on. So my name is Chris Fasano. I direct the digital marketing here, and I'm a marketing strategist at Over It. I've been here almost 2 years, and my job is basically all things digital and data analytics. We have Alex Tancredi. I'll let Alex introduce himself. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey guys, Alex Tancredi, Senior Business Development Associate here at Over It. Been with the crew for about 5 years now. I've had the pleasure to work both on the sales and business development team as well as on the back end with our account and production managers. So I've seen you guys from the discovery phase when you're seeking out a marketing partner and the kinds of things that you're looking for and how it fits within your budget, but on the back end, really kind of helping you guys see your projects through to fruition, whether that's creative and branding initiative or something more on the lines of business growth, which will be a little bit more of the focus today. Thanks, Chris. And also we've got here Chris Powers, our lead technologist. Chris, I'll let you take it away. Not to be confused with the other Chris.
Yeah, far too many Chris's. Hi, I'm Chris Powers. I'm lead technologist. Basically, what I try to do is through technology and integration is find different ways to expand what we can offer our clients and insights into their different ERPs or different systems that we can bring all of this data together into something that is useful and for both digital marketing and for our clients in general.
All right, so let's start. I'll start by saying that everybody at Over It is getting tired of me talking about data all of the time. And it's not because they don't enjoy it. I just think it's because, I do it on purpose to drill home the point that if you're not using data to drive your business, then you're operating purely on what we call subjective matter, meaning you're just thinking things and trying things out. Whereas the data allows you to really know what's happening and then use that to make your business decisions. And there's a big difference. And everybody has data. Data is everywhere. The question is it the correct data you're looking at? Is it centralized? And is it in a place that makes sense? Do you have 14 different spreadsheets? Do you have, things all over here and then one over here and sales data here, and then the analytics is over here and everything is, and then you're going back and forth. That's the majority, I feel. So if that's you don't have to hang your head in shame and say like, oh man, that's me. It was me and for a lot of time in my career with businesses. And sometimes it's just easy to operate that way, right? You're comfortable in it. It's as annoying as it is, you're just comfortable with it. But whenever you have multiple sheets of things, you make mistakes. And it's just also not reasonable to do and sit down. And so what we try to do at Over It is we try to put primary emphasis on this with our clients from the beginning, no matter what stage you're in, whether you're a brand new company, you're small, or you're, a $5-10 million company or bigger, and you have an established data infrastructure. One of the first things we're going to do is talk to you about your data infrastructure, your curation, how you're pulling that data in. And our goal is going to be to get your data in one place in real time, so that from your phone, from your laptop, from your iPad, from wherever you are, whether you're in Florida, like Carl was mentioning, one of our attendees, or you're in Nebraska back home, Carl, you can see the same data no matter where you are in real time, and you know exactly what's happening. That's our goal for any of our clients, and it should be your goal as a business. So what I want to do now is just start this. Like I mentioned, we just have a couple slides to really go through. So I'll go through these, and then we can start the conversation. So these are just some of the quick slides, and then I'm going to show you an example of a dashboard that we've worked on. Chris and I have worked on for one of our home service clients. So the agenda looks like this. We're going to talk about knowing your funnel, establishing your KPIs, your key performance indicators, creating a data tracking and acquisition plan, and then connecting your dashboard. And so, there are a lot of steps in between. I think there are smaller parts to that, but for today's discussion, these are really the high level pieces. So when you start with us, at least at Over It, or you're a business and you're not with us, but you're thinking about it, you should have a funnel. And what is a funnel? A funnel, we know what a funnel, and by definition, is that shape that starts out big at the top and tapers towards the bottom. And there's something else I'll bring your attention to towards the bottom. As you can see, our funnel re-widens at the bottom, which is important. You have to know the stages of your lead cycle in your business. So you have to know how people come in, which would be the top of your funnel, right? People, they hear about you somewhere, or maybe they click on an ad, or maybe there's a mailer or something, and then they come into what we call your ecosystem. So now they're in there. And so the question then is, once they come in, what are you doing to get them to the point of a conversion or a sale? What is that process like? So the first thing we have to know before we really get into any of your data is, what's that funnel? What are the stages of that funnel? And what are you doing to move people down the funnel? And at each step, there's a data acquisition process. So there is data on where people are coming from, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit. And then there's data as they move through. And why this is important, especially in a vertical like pest control, or an industry like home services, but really for anything, especially when you have recurring, is that you need to not only bring them in and sell them, but then you need to, as this widens here, you need to upsell them, and you need to continue to extract dollars from them as they are here. It's not a one-time thing. You want to continue to get dollars from that same person. That's why this widens. So in other words, just because you've closed them in conversion doesn't mean that the selling stops. So you have a new funnel that begins. And so there is data at each point, and you need to understand all of this. And we need to be able to extract the data at each part. And it all begins with this process. And we call this process Sales Enablement. And actually, we've done a previous webinar on that. And for anyone that's interested, I'm fairly certain it's on our YouTube channel, Alex, right? You guys can go to, I think, I don't know how to get directly to the YouTube. It's over.com. You could probably find the link there. We could probably post it somewhere. But
we can forward it to you guys after the webinar.
Yeah, thank you. And so you can take a look at that process, which is a pretty involved process. So number one step for your data acquisition and for your real-time data is know your funnel, right? And we're going to help walk you through that. All right. Okay, so we have our funnel now. And the next thing we want to know are your key performance indicators, or what we call KPIs. So as you can see, each part of a funnel will have different metrics that we track that indicates to us success or failure at each stage. So in awareness, for example, and again, this is just a funnel with labels that we have. We would modify this to whatever your needs are. It might not even be this elaborate. You might have a smaller stage funnel, or a more elaborate, more bigger. So for example, in awareness, we might be tracking impressions, right? So we're running ads for you, or you're running ads, or you're posting on social. How many people saw us, right? Very simple, very high funnel. Doesn't really tell you anything about, will they buy my product or service, but it's telling us more brand level. Do they know us? Have they seen us? How many emails did we deliver? You see, the key is that not opened, not engaged with. This is just aware. Are they aware of you, right? And that's a metric. We track that. Then as you move down, it becomes more action oriented. So let's say they come into the interest phase. So that would be maybe clicks in an email, or how many users came to the site this month or this week or yesterday? How many forms were submitted? Forms maybe would be further down. Maybe we would consider a form a lead, right? Or something in the decision process, right? Now they're thinking about buying. And so all of this, we build this out with you in your business, and you may have these already, which is great. And then this serves as the jumping point for us to know now where and how to track the data. So we have your funnel, we know the stages, we know what you're tracking or what we want to track. And then our team with Chris and everybody involved is we're going to understand all of your inbound traffic mechanisms, and we're going to set up our data tracking plan. And what we want to do is what we call, and what is called in this game, lead attribution, which means we're going to track no matter where they come in. So you can see here, direct, paid, social, organic, it's coming to the site. We are capturing all of this information before, as I should say, it comes into your funnel. And so that allows us to grab it. Now we have it. And as it moves, no matter where it's moving, it's tied to that person. So the data now is tied to that person. If they called, we know where they called from. If they submitted the form, we know where they submitted the form from. We know which ad that came from. And so we know exactly where and what's going on, which not only tells us more information about the journey, it tells us about your spend, right? You're spending money on a lot of different things. So you want to know which one's working better and best, right? So this is going to help you do that. So we set this up. And then we deal with some sort of your technologies, right? So we're going to talk about this probably during your sales enablement, but we're going to want to know which, if you're in pest control, we're going to want to know what's your ERP or what's your software. Are you using PestPack? Are you using Pest Routes, BrioStack? What are you using to do your scheduling, your selling, and things like that? We call that the CRM ERP, right? That's where your customers are stored. And then we're going to want to know, do you use or do you have a marketing automation platform, which is different than the ERP? The CRM and ERP is more of a customer management tool. And for pest control and in the home services vertical, it allows you to do your scheduling and your routing and your lead running. The marketing automation platform, although a lot of these ERPs in verticals will say we can do marketing automation, what we found is that it's not true automation. You can do some things, but it's not really robust enough to do that. So we're going to talk to you about, do you have a marketing automation platform? And eventually, if you're working with over it, or even if not, you want to get to the point where you have one of these. And what this allows you to do is, once you close your sale and it goes into your pest pack, let's say, or pest routes, this is going to sync back to a software that's going to now have all of that data tied into that sale. So for example, I, Chris Fasano, come to a pest control company. I come in on a Google ad for termites, and I came in and I go in and you sell me on a plan. Now it lives in this marketing automation platform and pest routes. It's mirrored as Chris Fasano coming in from Google Paid for termites. And then I bought an annual plan. I have all that information stored. Now, if let's say I'm a one-time customer, let's say now you want to upsell me on a plan. Basically, all you have to do with a touch of a button is say, give me all of those people that came in off Google ads. I want to see a list of them. Boom, one click, we have it all. Or let me see all of the people I have that are currently in a one-time service and don't have a plan, because we want to sell them a plan. One click, I have that. Let's send them a text. Let's send them an email. Let's upsell them, right? So all of that is possible, but it's only possible if you have the infrastructure and your data track in the system, right? If you don't have this, you're not able to do that proper segmentation, or it's very difficult. We have clients that are in, for example, a pest pack, which is their, a pest ERP. And this is a manual process. You have to export and clean and then do all of that to do one email, taking time. We don't want to do that, right? So this data infrastructure, not only, in the next slide, sir, I'll show you, is for your dashboard, your readout, but the data infrastructure gives you the ability to market and segment and detail. And that's really the key. I think people a lot of times think data is about readout and analysis and just looking at how we did, which is true, it is. But it also is the basis for segmentation and automation. And so if you don't have that, you're not going to have the readout, but you're not going to be able to segment. And in this game, especially pest control, especially home services, you have to be able to upsell. It's all about plans. It's all about getting people on recurring. And therefore, you have to be able to be nimble with it and know, right? The other last piece is, like I mentioned, I came in on a Google ad. What we want to be able to tell you, and you should want to know, is how much did I spend on Google this month? $1,000. Well, how many people did I close, and how much money did I make from those? $500. Okay, so I lost $500 this month on Google, and I know that at a click of a button, I can see that without having to go in, match the numbers. We've all been there, matching your numbers and trying to figure that out. No one wants to do that. You just want to know, and you want to also know in the middle of the month. If you're in the middle of a month, your peak month, and you're spending $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 on Google, and you're only closing $4, and you've only made a couple $100, maybe it's time for you to take some of that money and put it somewhere else. And you want to be able to do that in real time. All right. And that's the ultimate goal. And that's where you want to get to, right? So the final piece of this, and then I'm looking at the timer, we're about 18 minutes in. It's a good point for us to start to have a conversation here. This is the end goal. The end goal here, it's small. I'm going to pull this up in a minute and show you guys. This is, your inbound traffic coming in, it's here. And then all of this gets pulled into a really, really aesthetically beautiful dashboard that looks really nice, but it's really, really functional. I'm just seeing people are joining us late. No problem. We're just talking about data analytics in real time. We're on the last part of this, which is the dashboard, but we talked about establishing your funnel, establishing KPIs, and building a data tracking system to make sure we know as people come into your funnel, the data around how they got there, where they came from, which medium they came in on, and all of that stuff. And that's part of a plan and a process before you get to the dashboard. Everybody likes the dashboard or wants the dashboard. And trust me, I know I love, these guys will make fun of me. I'm a dashboard guy. In fact, I use it as a verb, that I dashboard.
You do dashboard all night.
A dashboard all night. But your dashboard is only as good as the infrastructure that's built here. And so like we could do static things in here, but the goal is real time. So what I'm going to do real quick here is let me go to this dashboard
real quick. Yeah, and guys, right after we go through this too, we'll pause for a second. And for anyone who's jumped in late, no problem. Like we said, we'll pause. We'll kind of go back through all of this information, ask some of the questions that you guys might have. I had actually connected with a couple pest control owners yesterday around the country who couldn't make it this morning, but had a few questions that they wanted to throw out to the group as well, because they knew this event would be recorded and they can follow up on it. So, this was a ton of information that Chris kind of just got out there for you in this first 20 minutes here. We realized that most companies usually come to us with maybe 3 or 4 pieces of everything that Chris just went through. So for you guys, this is a much more robust, comprehensive viewpoint of where we're trying to drive our clients to. And so we understand that there's a lot of elements here that are frequently overlooked or missed, or just weren't prioritized in the budget. So those are the kinds of things that we want to be able to talk through with you guys today, because at the end of the day, transparency is everything for us. Hence these dashboards with the ability for you guys to be able to look at everything and anything in real time. So for us, we want to arm you with the questions and the information that you need to have when you go out and seek this kind of engagement. So sorry to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Thank you, Alex. I mean, and again, I'm doing this quick so that we can talk this out and go through it and spend some time. And for those that have joined, I just want to put the disclaimer that if you're not in home services or pest control, don't worry about it. This is very applicable to any business. And what we're looking at now is the end point result of all of the building that infrastructure, getting the funnel together. So this, together with Chris Powers, we built this dashboard. And so I'm not going to go into every single tile in depth. I just want to get you a sense of what happens here. You have revenue here, dollars, right? What matters to you? Dollars in, and services is the blue line tracking it. How many services did I sell? How much money did I bring in? This is a breakdown of your services. This here is traffic, web traffic, and these are your reviews in real time. These are reviews from Google in real time. And I'm saying that again and again because I don't think I've seen a dashboard yet that's pulling in your reviews, 5-star, 4-star, in real time. Okay, so we have that connected. Your total leads by source and status, meaning how many leads did I get from Google My Business? What stage are they in? Are they open still? Did I close them? How many leads did I win? And what's the dollar amount associated with that by channel, right? Google Local Services, I made, I brought in 25,000, but Google My Business, I brought in 40,000, right? All of that's right here. This is an interesting tile. This is just more data for Chris and I to kind of look at, is how many of the calls that came in actually were converted to a lead, because we know that in certain industries, a lot of people call and just say, hey, I'm just following up, right? That's not a lead. So we can track these things separately, forms. But the beauty of this, and this is your AdWords performance, your Facebook performance, I want to show you what we can do here. So let's say we want to drill down and I want to say, I want to see the last 60 days of data, right? So what we can do then is we can apply a filter, and I don't know if you just saw that blink a little bit, but you can see it's blinking right now. And what it's going to do is it's going to update for me, and it's going to just give me, if it's actually working fast enough, it's going to give me that time and that data only in the last 60 days. So here you go. Now I can drill in and I can see, I want this last 60 days. I spent this much money and I closed this many leads. But now, you know what? I want to get a little more granular. Let's go 14 days. I'm curious to know what's going on the last 2 weeks. I really want to understand. I think there's something going on. You press the button there. We press that button and boom, 174 leads in the past 2 weeks, 66 won, 16,000 or $17,000, 74 calls converted, 18 forms. We spent $600 in AdWords. We haven't run any Facebook yet. And this is the information that we get. So what you can see is the real power of this. And this is me going back in time, but you have to remember, when I click that off and I go, this is real time populating. So there's a set frequency, right, Chris? I don't know what this is set to on updating.
Yeah, something I think the fastest time I have is every 15 minutes, give or take.
For the probably for the PestPack integration, so the dollars and stuff. But for the AdWords and stuff like that, they probably update quicker. It depends on the API and the connection.
Exactly.
But I could promise you, even if it's 15 minutes, that's more real than any time that you're going to see on a standard set. So our goal is to empower you with actionable data that you can look at right away. So I can go and I can see, June, where am I at? I'm at 158,000. My goal is 600,000. I'm pretty far away from that. What do I have to do? Well, let me see. I've already spent, so if I did this, and then this is the last thing I'll do before we can discuss. Let's say I'm in this month and I just said, let's focus on right now. Let me just see what I got. I got 106 leads. I won 28. That means I got a good chunk to close. I'm going to get in there and find out from my sales guys, saleswomen, what are they doing? What's going on there? Why? What's happening, right? I only spent $668 on AdWords so far. My budget is $5,000. I'm low. Is demand down? What's happening, right? And I have to remember, we're also doing the same thing. So our team is looking at this. You're looking at this, and we're on the same page. So that way, you know what we see, we know what you see, and we're doing the same thing back and forth. All right. So this is the result of the building out this infrastructure, right? So the funnel, KPIs, your tracking plan, where it's coming from, how we're going to track it, and then pulling everything into the dashboard. And then the result was what I showed you in that really, really nice interactive dashboard that's going to give you real-time metrics, that's going to help you really drive your business forward and ask the proper questions about where should I spend, what's working, what's the value of my customers, and things like that. So on that, I will stop. If there's any questions at any time, please go ahead and, in fact, I'm going to let me click allow to talk. So I'm just clicking allow to talk, allow to talk, allow to talk. If anyone would like to ask specific questions, you can unmute, go ahead and please ask. If you're not comfortable, you can go ahead and just submit a question. I will stop talking. Go ahead, please. Any questions?
Well, I'll go first. I don't have any questions per se. This is the second time kind of going through this presentation, sort of. And I will just say that I look forward to the day when I can get all of these different things under one umbrella. I'm the guy that uses 4 different things to get all this information, and it is quite painful to put it all together. So the efficiency is quite remarkable to me. So just a comment.
And we appreciate that, Carl. I think, you know, that's definitely the biggest thing is efficiency too, like you said. And that's often overlooked as we're explaining this. You know, we really try to focus on the transparency of the information and everything that you have at your fingertips. But I think efficiency is a good thing for you guys to focus on. You are running your businesses day in and day out, or your office manager, or your sales manager, whomever it is that's kind of working with us through this data. You guys don't have the time to sit there and build out 4 different spreadsheets from the 2 or 3 reports that you've gotten over the last few months. You guys need to be able to sit down and within half an hour, see all of your data, make some immediate responses, and then reach out to your team to say, hey, I saw X, Y, and Z. I wanted to make sure you guys were on the same page, and this is what I want to do next because of it. What are your thoughts? It should be much faster for you guys to be able to understand where your business is at within relation to what your growth goals are. And that's something that Chris didn't dive too deep into in this presentation, but that's step 1 for us, right? What are the growth goals of your business? What is your budget? What are you ultimately trying to get to? So we can build a comprehensive plan that builds out this funnel appropriately to help you guys get there. So efficiency, transparency, and growth goals are, the 3 main components of what this ultimately gets you guys.
So if I can just add something else, Alex, and I don't want to sound like I'm a salesman for your product, but the piece that you haven't mentioned is the consultative piece. I mean, you're there to help us make good decisions with this data that we have. I mean, 2 brains are better than 1 all day long, and I just see that as an important piece of this too.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point. I mean, obviously that's not the goal necessarily of this conversation, to try to sell you guys on our ability to help you grow your business. Although we surely will if you would like. But I think that, we build this out for you, but we build it for us so that we can help you get your business to where you have to go. I mean, there's a reason why we're growing pest control companies. And again, I'm just using this as an example. We're growing them at 35, 40, 42%. And we're doing that not because, it's not magic. It's just it's a growth system. We empower you to do it. I mean, we're working with really great companies that have a really good process, but we're helping them, and we're helping them make the insight. So, one question I get, unless someone has another question, one question we get a lot, I think, Chris, is, does it matter the softwares that I use? I see that you have, a lot of this is hooking things in, and, a lot of people feel like maybe we only work with certain things. So can you talk to a little bit about how that works, and is it limited by what people are using?
Sure. And it definitely is, I think when people are looking into their ERPs, I think some of the things that get left to the side is, what is my ability to access the data that I have in there? I'm sure people who've worked in this, with their ERPs, the APIs are definitely the key word here, and companies are definitely going forward with a lot of these. They'll call quote unquote open API, but there are usually a lot of caveats with that need to be kind of addressed. And sometimes you don't realize those things until you've already signed up for the platform, or you're too deeply involved. We run into things all the time where, a lot of companies will charge an extra cost, whether it's a percentage of their monthly fee or whatever that is. I think our big limitation run is
might be
the amount of data that we can receive in a day. So a good example would be certain ones. We only have 3,000 API calls we can use a day. But if you're pulling back records via an API, usually you'll get let's say you'll get 1,000 records, but you have to go get those details of each one of those records. And then how many times a day does that hit to update that? It starts to get really complicated, and it starts to get, overwhelming very quickly as far as what you can use. So we end up building middleware that we can either, one, wait for the system to contact us, so we use less of that resource, or we're able to set up polls from different services. And so each service has its own cons and pros that we have to look out for, and how that data comes into it. So I think the amount of, I think those are kind of the questions when you're looking at your ERP or looking at different tools or softwares to bring in for data. What are those limitations, and really digging down into the availability of your data, and make no mistake, that's one of those things that they hold tightly, but it is your data. And that's kind of what we truly feel about all of this, and trying to putting it together in one central location, for you to be able to use. And
that is one of the single most important pieces that you guys should take away from today. And to Chris Fasano's point, we're not here to sell over it. We're here to arm you guys with the information, which is why we've got Chris Powers on the development side, Chris Fasano here on the technology side, myself on the account management side, knowing what you guys come to the table with. So you've got those different areas of expertise. It's that development technology side that is often overlooked. I just invested in this great platform. It gives me all this data. The person I talked to over there told me that it had an open API. That means I should be able to access everything. Great, the world is looking up for me. But then you turn to your marketing partner, you turn to your marketing automation partner, and they tell you, look, you've got a limited amount that you can actually reach out into your database and pull the information out of. It might be yours, but it's limited in the amount that you can get to it on a daily basis. So you can look at Chris Powers like your car mechanic. Hey, I got a funky little noise and it doesn't seem like much, but Chris Powers is going to look under the hood and tell you, look, there's a lot more going on here that you guys don't realize. And so it's a big educational piece. Again, Carl, going back to your point of efficiency, it's not something that you guys frequently have the time to wrap your head around and totally understand. So it unfortunately does require a little bit of extra homework on your end, or if you're lucky enough to have that kind of valuable partner to look into it for you or show you, these are the really important elements for you guys to consider when you're looking for a CRM or an ERP is, how open is that API really? How much can I really access the data that is supposed to be my own?
Agreed.
Is there, let's see, any other questions? Otherwise I can.
Like I said, guys, I've got, a couple questions from some folks that had reached out to me the other day who wouldn't be here. So I'm happy to kind of prompt you guys with that. Maybe it'll give you some ideas of some of the things that you've run into. One of them actually, Chris, was exactly what we had just talked about. So I appreciate you getting ahead of that. I had a pest control company out of the Pacific Northwest who had reached out, who said, hey, we're analyzing 3 different ERPs, CRMs right now. They all claim to be open, but we have some hesitations about, how much we really can access our data. And so what they were looking for is exactly what you had just said. The fact that, you do need to do a little bit of extra digging to understand how much information you're going to be able to get. So that's one thing that I think is important for you guys. Like I said, another pest control company who had reached out of the Southeast, not quite Florida, Carl, but Georgia. This was more on Chris Fasano's end, which I think, Chris, if you take us back to slide 4 in our presentation here, this is what most business owners get when working with, a digital marketing partner, right? Hey, I know I got this many emails opened or clicked in this past month and this many impressions, or I got this many new users to my site. And all of that is great, but it's a lot of traffic data. And as you're seeing here in our representation, it's just the top 2 elements of what your entire funnel is. So you guys are getting that every month, and that seems great. You got a ton of valuable looking information, but you had to wait 4 weeks just to get that information. You didn't have this dashboard where you're able to analyze things in real time. But B, now you're seeing here that, look, it's really only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that I need to understand about that data and what I do afterwards. So Chris, if you could even kind of elaborate on this slide again, because I know we had a few people who jumped in late and a couple people that are just catching this via the recording, what are those extra data points that you should be aware of beyond just your traffic numbers? And when you do get that information, what's supposed to happen next? Kind of just a review of this part of the funnel and the things that you need to be aware of from the get-go.
So I think that most people, like Alex said, are tracking those data points, like how many clicks, how many people saw it, and the CTR. CTR is like a big one. People hang their hat on CTRs. Agencies a lot say, hey, we get a great CTR. And all of those are great. But in the end, you need to understand what happened after they clicked. Like, what did they do? Did they submit a form? Did they make a phone call? How long was the phone call? Where did the phone call come from? How many phone calls actually converted to a lead? How many of those leads actually went on to sell or be sold? And how much did those sales generate? That's the real information that we want to know. And you're not going to get that by just clicking and snapping your fingers. That's the information that requires an effort. And that's also why a lot of standard, if you're working with a marketing partner or even internal marketing, a lot of times it takes a lot of extra effort to get there. And the reason why is because a lot of the place where you house the data of your revenue, your sales, it's not in the same places where your marketing is, right? If you're running Google Ads, you're in Google Analytics. Unless you're using e-commerce and you're an e-com business where you're selling sneakers or hats online, you can easily or somewhat more easily integrate that with Google Analytics. And that will allow you to say, I sold this many hats this month, right? But when you're talking about a service company, things like this, it's harder and it requires an extra effort. It requires blending data sources together. It requires tying them together so that when someone comes from here and they buy something, you can attach the two together and they live together. And that requires an effort. And it's not a knock on anyone else. And I'm sure there are other companies that do this, but we are not satisfied with that. And you shouldn't be either. If people are just telling you how many calls you got and how many clicks you have, that is important, but you should want to know more than that. You should want to know how many calls and clicks resulted in a lead, resulted in a closed sale, and resulted in dollars. And then on top of that, in this inverse funnel part here is how many more dollars did you get from that one purchase? So they came in on a one-time service. Then we sold them on a plan. So it started at $150. And then that got to $1,200 because now they're on an annual plan. So I think your KPIs have to exist, and it's important to know that higher level information. But it's critical that you know the down funnel information. It's critical that you're moving to get to a system and a data structure where leads, however we define them, right? That could be, the definition of lead is not set in stone. Some people call a lead a form that comes in, some people don't. And there are things called marketing qualified leads, right? Not just a lead, but a qualified lead. And we would work through that with you. But sales metrics are important. And this is an interesting topic, Alex and Chris. We talk about this a lot at Over It, and there's debate. Should sales information be tied into marketing? A lot of people think that marketing should only be delivering marketing metrics, and we shouldn't be talking about your sales. But I personally, and I know Alex, I think Chris believes this too, I think that's crazy because the goal of marketing is to sell. And if you don't know that your marketing is leading to sales, I wouldn't know how to build marketing strategy for you. Like if we're doing all of this stuff and I'm telling you, yeah, we got 1,000 clicks. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. That's crazy to me. I want to know what happened after that. How much money did you make on that? What's going on? So we view it as essential at Over It that those metrics are part of your KPI system. And we're going to really push for you guys to get that. So it's a really important part of our process, which is why we go into a deep sales enablement process. You got to go past the click.
Yep, and you ended it right on the right note there, Chris, which is this is why we call it sales enablement. It's not just marketing. It's not just your digital advertising efforts. It's enabling your sales team. What are the resources they need? What are the assets they need? How can we arm them? And when we get even further in our engagements with some of our clients, we have the luxury of going for ride-alongs with them, recording their sales calls and listening into a handful of them to see what their team is sounding like when they're talking to their current or their prospective customers. That's not something everybody gets the ability to do, but we all know that you often don't have a call center. You very well might have your office manager or a technician even who's answering that call and responding to clients. So how do you help arm them with the right kind of, not necessarily script, but what are the pieces of information they should know that can help move that client along? There are a couple of our clients, even up here locally, that we've helped do that. And I've, as a customer of theirs, even before we started working with them, I've been able to see that evolution as I'm talking to the technicians, or when someone calls me to follow up. I can hear them going through the points of helping me look forward into what some of my potential needs are. If you guys don't have that bottom part of the funnel kind of just disappears, and you cut yourself off at the knees. So it's really about sales enablement. I think that's the keyword or the buzzword I'd like you guys to kind of take away from this as well.
Let's see, is there any other, I don't see any. People ask me a lot, is it too late? Like I hear, like, I give an example of my brother runs a content business, and he has gotten pretty big, and he's got a lot of things coming in, and they did not take these steps that we're outlining here. And, his question to me is like, are we too far out? Like, is it too far now for me to get this together? And the answer is no. I mean, it's like anything else. It's like the, if you have an extension cord, it's like all balled up, or your Christmas lights or your lights are all balled up. It's going to take a little more unraveling. We're going to have to take some time to unravel it. But every month goes by that you don't do it makes it harder, right, to unravel. So it's like anything in life, you have to become aware of the problem, and consider this your awareness at top funnel. And then once you become aware, then make a plan to fix it. It's never too late to fix it. Again, it just becomes a little more complicated, because as you have all of this stuff going on and you're adding pieces, it's going to just take a little more planning for us to unravel and build a plan. Doesn't mean it can't be done. And I got to say, Alex, as you've seen people come, to the booth or talk to people on the phone, you've seen people come at all different stages, right? And there's no right or wrong there. And it's just where you are and where you got to, when you got to this point of awakening. But there's never too late. And we just want to always stress to people, just think about it now, and let's get a plan right now. And we don't have to go, it doesn't have to all happen immediately. We'll get you there, but we got to start with the process. It's not too late. It's just, you really should make an effort as soon as you can, before it starts to get, once you start really growing fast, you really want to make sure you have an infrastructure built out.
Yeah. Most people will go through those, first 5-10 years of business, even without a lot of these foundational pieces. And then to Chris's point, you hit your stride and the business increases. You need to really have this kind of there as a backup. And the other thing to keep in mind is, it's a big endeavor for anyone, whether you're getting caught somewhere in the middle or the end of it, like Chris's brother, and you got to detangle your Christmas lights a little bit, or you get it from the jump and you're working your way through it right from the beginning. Either way, it's a big endeavor. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of digging. It takes a lot of Chris Powers and his car mechanic ways of going into all of the different platforms that we might be working with. Because remember, we may have done it for one client, but you might have a different stack, which is something you'll also hear us say. The different platforms that people use, it's not uniform across even an industry. There's different options out there. So we need to understand how all of these different systems can talk to each other, how they can work with each other, how we can leverage the strengths and the weaknesses of some, push those off to the side. So no matter what, you're building out a roadmap. This is not something that in the blink of an eye, in a month, you're going to turn it around. It's something that we need to dive into the weeds of your business, understand where you're at, understand where you're trying to grow to, who's your market, what resonates with them, Then what are all these technologies that you're utilizing? And then we build out this roadmap together. You know, we want to be a partner of you. It takes a while to get there. We got to work through all of those phases to get there. And then, like Fasano can tell you, you know, we are, you know, second year, third year in with some of our clients, and they're starting to see upwards of the high 30s, in some even into the 40% growth rate. Not something a lot of people are seeing, but especially in this last year, if you were smart, if you leveraged it, if you got in front of your audiences, a lot of people's businesses grew from the pandemic because people were home. They were paying attention to some of those things on the home front that were often going overlooked. And even to break out of home services, I know not everybody in this webinar today or roundtable today is from that vertical. Doesn't matter. Restaurants, breweries, wineries, event halls, you know, everybody had to come up with a unique way to get their information out there, to get their entertainment out there. And having this kind of information there on the back end shows you what worked and what didn't in the last year and what you can leverage moving forward, because all industries are going to evolve now, right? Everything has changed in the last 12, 18 months. And so how are you going to move forward from there? And how are you going to have the right data system behind it to track it all? So we know it's a lot, guys, and that's why we just, you know, when we can, we want to be here for you guys. We want to bring people from different walks of over it to the table so that you can talk to us from whatever, you know, area that you really need the most help with. So, you know, bringing it back to Carl's point at the beginning, we like to be that consultant. We like to be here to answer questions. Even if we don't get the pleasure to work with you guys, we want to point you in the right direction, because then maybe we can work together in the future. So I know we only got about 10 minutes or so left. You know, if anyone has any questions, great. I think Carl just posted in here. Could be a broad question. What would be the top 2 or 3 takeaways for the audience today to implement today, next week, next month, until we can partner together? I think all 3 of us can probably answer this at different stages here. For myself, it's what are the questions that you guys should be going back to your marketing partners with, or your internal marketing and sales team with? What are the things you need to know about all of the different channels that are available to you, the different technologies that are available? What is your stack, and what are the things that I can actually access from all of them? And then what is it going to take for me to build those things together? Even if you can't get all those answers, I think right now, today is when you need to at least start asking the questions to make sure you know what you have in front of you. Chris, Fasano, anything you'd want to add into that, things that they can start doing today?
I would say that you should know what your funnel is. Like, you know, this is the jumping point for everything. You should know what your funnel is, what on a basic, what are your stages, right? Everybody has a process, for good or for bad, of how you handle a lead or how you walk, or what is your sales process. Know that funnel, because the first thing we're going to do is ask you that question. Do you have a funnel? Do you have a progression, a lead progression? So I would start, because it's a very simple exercise to get started. You can draw it out. It's very visual. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to have all these proper terms. Just do it in the way that you know, put it down on paper, and start to line up next to the funnel like this, the things that you'd be interested in knowing, or the things you're tracking right now. And then a next step of that is, where do you keep that information, right? So I get it from Google Analytics, or I do this, I get it from here, and then I get this from here, right? And that is enough, I think, for us to get started and to really start to build it out. So I would say a takeaway from this is, know that the data is important. Know that you want to move towards real-time analytics. That's the awareness phase. And then build out a funnel. Get on a computer, a piece of paper, draw it out, start drawing out the phases, and start writing down where that stuff's coming from. And I think that's a good jump off for when you want to take the next jump. Chris, do you anything about I don't know, technologies or things like that?
Well, I think you touched upon it right there. Where is that data coming from? What are you using right now for different tools, and what channels should you be expanding into? Or if you are in channels, where does that data sit? Where does that live? And do you have access to it? And that's the big question is, can I get at my information and do something with it? So those questions is where is my data?
Thanks for that, Carl.
All right. If there's nothing else, let me go. You guys can, here's some of the email addresses here. If you guys have any questions, you can email any of us here. We're happy to help you out, get you started, answer questions. And in the end, if you want to talk with us about how we can help you, we're obviously happy to do that as well. So, thank you for time, and get that data going, get that data right, everybody.
Thank you, guys. We really appreciate you taking some time to chat with us today. Carl's last comment here was, thanks, guys. My next step is to hold feet to the fire. I'd say absolutely. All of you guys, talk to your partners, talk to the technology, CRM and ERP partners that you guys have, hound them with questions. Make sure they're sharing as much information as they can. And like Chris said, we're here for you guys. We want to be able to talk this through. We want to be a resource for you guys. So if you do have questions, if you have, some red flags that have popped up in the weeks that follow from here after you started holding some people's feet to the fire, we're here to help you kind of navigate those waters. So really appreciate you guys taking the time. We'll definitely send this out afterwards, the recording of the event. The last slide here for Chris actually is the home services trends report. If that's something that you guys haven't had a chance to download or review yet, definitely a good resource for you guys to take a look at. I know we're about halfway through the year. To Chris's point, it's never too late. You should always be looking for as much information as you can. We will have another one that we're working on for 2022 that'll start pretty soon. But I think there's still a ton of relevant little nuggets that you guys can pull out of this year's trends report. So thank you again. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Yes, Carl, the report is available to you. I can send it to you directly as well if you'd like. If you hadn't had a chance to see it yet, I'll send you to the page where you can get it. So thank you guys again, and let us know if you have any questions.
All right, everyone, have a good day. Thank you.
Take care.